Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. On today's episode of Commander Gameplay, we are back with the real table and the golden voice of the channel, Mathieu, accompanied by Janie. I will be playing Zirda the Dawnwaker, my most recent deck and a really fun one. It's a token-based strategy looking to use Zirda's reduction to pay only 1 or 2 for each activations and activate artifacts to complement Boros' weaknesses. It's a lot of fun. Kelly will be playing Alela Artful Trickster. This is an artifact-focused list looking to cast a lot of cheap artifacts to get some faerie and take the table by the sky. There's still a couple of enchantments in the list for draw or control, but artifacts are the main focus. Mathieu will be playing one of Janie's deck, Karametra, God of Harvest. This deck is looking to ramp by casting a lot of creatures and close the game with big impactful selesnya bombs like Avacyn, Blazing Archon or Blightsteel Colossus. Finally, Janie will be playing TinyBones, Trinket Thief. That's right, the best intro on the channel is back. TinyBones is looking to make us discard during our turns to give Janie card advantage. She's gonna set up a lot of enchantments to gain more value and will close the game with her commander ability or some big black sorceries. Our opening hand contains Raider's Wake, Phyrexian Arena, Siphon Mine, Read the Bones, Hero's Downfall, Cabal Coffers, and a single snow-covered swamp. Yikes. As much as Cabal is strong in mono-black, the fact that her draw spell costs 3 means that she needs to find 2 more lands before playing. Hopefully, luck is on her side. Once she gets to 3 mana, she's gonna be fine for sure. Mathieu's opening hand contains Amulet of Vigor, Oracle of Muldaya, Wood Elves, Scattered Growth, Branchloft Pathway, and 2 basic planes. Pretty heavy on lands, but that's what you expect from a Selesnya ramp deck. Amulet of Vigor is extremely powerful with Karametra, letting her chain creature from the lands her commander gets on the battlefield. Kelly's opening hand contains Black Blade Reforge, Lurrus of the Dream Den, Sol Ring, Prairie Stream, Sunken Hollow, and a Plains. Kelly had to go down to 6 and kept a hand with some good cards but no draw. Hopefully, she will get one of her Biden effect to keep the cards flowing. Black Blade is a very powerful card and will add a threat to the table for sure. My opening hand contains Daredi Scrap Savant, Fel the Mighty, Land Tax, Expedition Map, Sol Ring, Scavenging Ground, and a Plains. I think it's a good opening hand. The Land Tax against a Karametra will always keep my hand full for the discard deck, and Daredi can even turn some of these lands into regular draws. Mathieu gets to start this off. And land drop a Scattered Grove. Kelly land drops Prairie Stream. And Janie land drops a Snow-Covered Swamp. I land drop a Plains and cast Land Tax. Mathieu land drops Branchloft Pathway. And Kelly land drops Sunken Hollow before casting Sol Ring. Janie land drops her Cabal Coffers.
Oups!
Oh, pas idéal. Non, t'es pas sérieuse? J'espère qu'il y a d'autres bonnes cartes au moins.
Ah! Oh shit, j'ai pas de bug dans ce deck là.
At my upkeep, I search for my library for 3 basic planes and then draw. I then drop one of them and cast my own Sol Ring. I then cast my Expedition Map. Mathieu then drops a Plains and casts Wood Elves. Entering the battlefield, he gets a basic forest to his board. Kelly then drops a Plains and casts her commander, Alela Artful Provocateur.
Wrinkles, pranks are child's play. My name's Tuffle Kingdoms.
She then casts Mox Opal. Alela triggers and creates a faerie. Janie luckily draws and then drops a snow-covered swamp. She then casts her commander, TinyBones, Trinket Thief.
TinyBones does not steal. He provides for his family.
At the end step, I crack my map for Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. I then go to my upkeep and get a single Plains from Land Tax. I draw for turn and land drop Nykthos. I then cast my commander, Zirda the Dawnwaker. At cleanup step, I discard a Plains and Soul of New Phyrexia to end size. Mathieu then drops a Plains and casts his commander, Karametra, God of Harvest.
I refuse to let the folly of mortals endanger the home I made for them.
Kelly then drops Seat of the Synod. She now has Metalcraft and casts Black Blade Reforge.
Bibi!
Ugh.
Oh my god!
She equips it to Alela, and going to combat, Alela attacks Mathieu for 6. Janie then drops a snow-covered swamp and casts Phyrexian Arena. Now that's what I call quality top decking. I do not get lands for land tax and land drop a great furnace. I then cast Idyllic Tutor, tutoring for Sacred Mesa, casting it. I then pass. Mathieu casts Amulet of Vigor, and then Oracle of Muldaya. Karametra triggers and fetches a basic plains, which will come untapped because of the amulet. He then land drops a forest from his hand and another one from the top of his deck. He follow it up with Fierce and Path, getting a Temple Garden for Karametra. Entering the battlefield, he tutors for Regal Behemoth to his hand. Kelly land drops the Scavenger Grounds, and casts Return to Dust, targeting Bob Caramel and Amulet of Vigor. She then casts Talisman of Dominance, creating a fairy. Heading into combat, Alela attacks Mathieu again, and one fairy each to me and Janie. In second main, she casts Lurus of the Dream Den. Janie draws an additional card at her upkeep. She land drops another Snow Swamp and casts Gibbering Descent, passing. At my upkeep, I lose one and discard the plains. I then get 2 plains and a mountain from land tax, and create a Pegasus to sacrifice it to the Sacred Mesa trigger, before drawing for turn. I land drop a plains and cast Arcane Signet. I then cast Daredi Scrap Savant, and +2 the Planeswalker to discard 2 and draw 2, discarding a plains and a mountain. I use my floating mana to make a Pegasus. I then go to combat and send Zirda to Janie. At my end step, Janie draws from TinyBones.
Ça va être un gros pas. C'est ta jeu? Oui, merci.
Gros jeu!
Gros jeu bon. Gros jeu bon.
Mathieu discards Yasharn to the Descent. He draws and land drops his own Nykthos Shrine to Nyx from the top of his deck. He then land drops a Maze of It, and casts Regal Behemoth. Entering the battlefield, he becomes the Monarch. Using his mana doubler, he casts Platinum Imperium. Satisfied with his turn 6, he goes to end step, drawing for Monarch, and Janie draws for TinyBones. Kelly has no card to discard. She draws and casts Inspiring Statuary, creating a fairy. She heads into combat, sending 2 fairies to Mathieu. His life total can't change, but Kelly becomes the Monarch since damage is dealt. She draws at the end step. Janie draws at her upkeep to the arena, and discards a swamp to the Descent. She land drops a Snow Swamp, and casts Raider's Wake. And then, Oppression. At her end step, I create a Pegasus. At my upkeep, I discard a card to the Descent, taking 3. I then sacrifice a Pegasus to the Mesa, before getting a plains and 2 mountains from land tax. I then draw for a turn. I +2 Daredi to discard a single mountain to draw 1. I take 2 from the Wake. I cast Fell the Mighty, targeting my Pegasus. I discard a plains to the Oppression. All creatures with more than 1 power are destroyed. I then cast Luminarch Ascension, discarding a mountain. I activate my Sacred Mesa for 2 Pegasus with my floating mana, and at the end step, Janie draws from TinyBones. At her upkeep, Mathieu discards a Blazing Archon, losing 3. He then casts Sensei's Divining Top, discarding Triumph of the Horde to the Oppression, quite the politic move. He activates the top to look at his top 3 cards. He then taps the top to draw the top card of his library and put the top back on top.
Je joue boros, je fais ce que je veux.
C'est vrai.
Si jamais elle peine, c'est bravo moi.
Ah!
Fuck moi.
Oh!
Fuck you!
Fuck mon deck. Je veux pas discard.
Mathieu casts Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite. Her static ability kills a lot of creatures on the table. He then goes to combat, attacking Kelly with Wood Elves and Daredi with Fierce and Path. At the end step, Janie draws for TinyBones and I put a counter on the Ascension. Kelly discards Sigard's Aid to the Descent.
C'est Pony Be Gone, c'est ça la carte.
She then recasts her commander using Improvise. She discards Stram on cast. And at the end step, Janie draws a card while the Ascension gains a counter. She then goes to her turn, drawing from the arena, and discarding Worn Power Stone. She then drops a Snow Swamp and casts Bone Miser, discarding Sign in Blood. We now realize that TinyBones should be dead to the Elesh Norn, and quite devastated, Janie casts Hero's Downfall on Elesh Norn, discarding Mindcrank. I put a third counter on my Ascension at the end step. At my upkeep, I create a Pegasus to sacrifice to Sacred Mesa, and discard a plains to the Descent. I then get some lands from land tax and draw for turn. I then drop a plains and cast Wayfarer's Bauble, discarding a mountain. I -2 day ready to switch my bauble for the soul of new Phyrexia in my graveyard. I then cast Mirage Mirror, discarding a mountain. I follow it up with Tilonali's Summoner, discarding Rogue's Prairie. Mathieu discards the top at his upkeep. He then casts Michiko Konda Throat Seeker, having nothing to discard, which is kind of a win, ? He draws at the end step, and I put the final counter on my Ascension.
Vrai? Non, je change rien pour tout. Je vais juste prendre 3 dans le fond.
Je vais dire.
J'en veux plus. N'en veux pas de ta
Ah non, c'est vrai.
Kelly has nothing to discard at the upkeep, and land drops an unclaimed territory, naming Human. For our combat, Alela goes to Janie. Janie draws at the upkeep from the arena and discards a swamp. She then land drops a snow swamp. For somebody who started with 1 land, this is going great. She recasts TinyBones, discarding a Read the Bones. Bone Miser draws her back a card. She then casts Siphon Mine, discarding Aetherflux Reservoir to the Attrition. Kelly has no card in hand, and so only me and Mathieu lose 2 when discarding, and Janie draws 2. After that, she casts Words of Waste, discarding a swamp and gaining 2 black mana. She has nothing to do with it, and pass. At my upkeep, I discard Mirror Entity. I do not pay to keep the Sacred Mesa. I trigger land tax and fetch the last basics in my deck. I then recast Zirda, discarding a mountain. Going to combat, I send the summoner to Kelly, paying only the red and using my reduction to get 2 elementals. We then go to the end step, and Janie uses the Words of Waste to make us discard instead of drawing our TinyBone card. And by us, I mean me. I discard a mountain. Mathieu has no card to discard at his upkeep. He draws for turn and land drops a plains. He then recasts his commander. And at the end step, draws for Monarch, while Janie draws on TinyBones.
Ah, le Monarch!
Kelly loses 1 and draws for turn. She casts Kindred Dominance, naming Faerie. I react by making an angel first and then making my permanents indestructible with my Soul of Phyrexia. Kelly then pass. Janie draws for the arena and discards to the descent. She casts Demonic Tutor, discarding a Bojika Bug. She tutors and casts Rise of the Dark Realm, which gets a lot of creature from Mathieu. A lot. Entering the battlefield, she can get some forest or plains, but decide not to. Not sure why. She becomes the Monarch, and Eleshnorn kills my 1/1s. Again. After that, she recasts TinyBones, and pass. I discard Treasure Map at my upkeep, taking 3. I then cast Anointed Procession. I have no card to discard, and pass. Mathieu discards Guard Eternal Oketra to his upkeep. He then casts Avacyn Angel of Hope in her beautiful promo form. He then pass. Kelly loses 1 at her upkeep. She casts Spare Supplies. She gets a fairy, but it immediately dies to the White Praetor. Entering the battlefield, she draws a card. She then casts Recruiter of the Guard, which dies, hitting the battlefield, but she fetches Baleful Strix to her hand. She then casts Baleful Strix, digging as she can. Entering the battlefield, it dies and draws a card. I now notice the Scavenger Ground on Kelly's side and shed a tear for the preventable Rise of the Dark Realm. Janie draws and discards at her upkeep, but her life totals can't change. Heading into combat, Janie full swings at Kelly for 46, and she decides not to block. So here's the current situation. Janie controls Mathieu's Platinum Empyrean, and I control a Mirage Mirror, which can give me a Platinum Empyrean, protecting me from TinyBones' activated ability. With her available mana, she can activate her commander 4 times, which means that I need to have 4 mana up to be able to put a transform trigger on top of her last activated ability, preventing my death. With this knowledge, she passes. At the end step, I create 6 angels with my Luminorc Ascension. I then go to my upkeep, having no card to discard. I cast a Skull Clamp. We think a bit more about the situation and realize that the Platinum Empyrean keeping me alive is Mathieu's creature, and so, if Janie activates TinyBone twice, the Platinum Empyrean will not be available for me next turn. And so we do just that. Janie activates TinyBones 4 times. I react to each activation with a mirror trigger. When we resolve the stack, I'm still alive and Mathieu is not anymore. At the end step, my mirror stops being a golem. We then go to Janie's turn, she untaps and activates TinyBone once more. As I cannot copy anything to save me, I die. Looking back at this game, the attrition game plan was very real. I was lucky to get up to 3 lands at every upkeep to discard to the TinyBones deck, but Mathieu and Kelly were in full top deck mode. I'm currently waiting for my copy of Scroll Rack to come in the mail. I might try it out in Zirda for their synergy with land tax. The Rise of the Dark Realm was impressive. It was like Janie was playing both of her decks at the same time. And the ending was an interesting puzzle that both parties had to solve. If the Platinum Empyrean was from Janie's deck, I think I would have a really good chance to win this, but in the end, the Tiny Thief prevailed. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Help us reach 500 subscribers before the end of the year, we are so close. See you soon and take care!